Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's video. I'm glad to have you here. So, I said that I had plans for this video, and I do. However, when I sit down and try and voice the thoughts that I've been having for the last few weeks, it's coming out a little convoluted. So I apologize that this video may be a bit meandering, but I still have the bones of what I want to say. So, about 2 weeks ago, I drove north on a whim to see a band that I have been friends with for 20 years. I've been pretty close with them, I would say, during that time. I've spent countless hours with them. My old band played at one of the members of the band's wedding. It's just been that kind of relationship. They were good friends of mine for a long time. And then when I left music, or when my former band and I parted ways, I kind of dropped out of music in general. Part of it was getting married and moving to a new city where I didn't know any bands. I didn't know where to go for shows. Part of it was, I think, my own inner hurt over not being in a band anymore that for a long time had meant a lot to me. And when that relationship was severed, it wasn't just musical relationships that ended. Friendships ended as well, unfortunately. And I hold no ill will towards anyone, but, we've definitely grown apart. And that's an unfortunate circumstance of life, be it in music or just friend groups in general. It happens. In any case, when I was at the show, I had all of these emotions that just sort of welled up inside of me. And at the time I was like, oh man, I miss live music, which I do. I'm not saying that this isn't part of the whole thing that's been going on. It definitely is. However, I've seen other bands since COVID started. I went to another show about a month ago, and I didn't have these feelings, but it was because I didn't have an emotional connection to the bands that I was seeing like I had with the band that I'm talking about. Which makes me think that it's more than just I missed live music. Actually, to be fair, now that I'm thinking about it, see, I told you this was kind of go all over the place. I did see other live music when a friend of mine got married a few months ago, and those bands that I saw there did give me some sort of emotional response. I don't know if it was because of the setting, the music, but the bands that I've never seen before, that I have no, personal connection with, still gave me some sense of inner joy, I guess. And that's weird. I think in both instances, the band I saw a few weeks ago, the bands at the wedding, I had this visceral emotional response because of where I was, the situation, who I was surrounded with. And yes, I do miss live music. But I think more than that, what I was feeling, and I might be totally off about this, but it's just what's been floating around in my head. And this kind of comes from, I saw a tweet from a member of a band that I was super into when I was younger, and they had broken up, and people were like, oh, we need a reunion show, we need a reunion show. And their singer basically said, this is, to paraphrase, you don't miss my band. What you miss is your youth. And hearing or reading that, mixed with the feelings that I had, knowing that these were bands, at least the one I saw 2 weeks ago, that this was a band that had a very important part of who I was when I was younger, I came to think that that might be true. I think, yes, I do miss live music. I think that I very much miss being in a band because performing is one of the only times that I feel at peace, be that with singing in a band or acting. And music has definitely fallen by the wayside for me. Here and there, I'll have a project that never really goes anywhere. And when I'm doing that, I definitely feel this calm and this peace within me that I just grab onto. In that regard, I actually had a friend of mine get a hold of me yesterday asking if after the holidays I wanted to get together and jam on some stuff and maybe record something, some covers. And I was like, absolutely. But I don't know if that will give me the same feeling that it did when I was younger. When I was younger, music was my identity. I was the singer for for band. I was, one of two singers for another band. And that kind of became my identity for a very long time. As you know, I have a very hard time relating to other people. I have a very hard time finding a sense of belonging. And when I throw myself into something like, oh, I'm the vocalist for so-and-so, that becomes my identity. Not me, just who I am in regards to this thing that you might or might not appreciate. And it really does make me wonder if I will have the same emotional response with this new potential project that I had with any projects in the past. When I act, I still feel that sense of peace, but that comes as much from me performing as it comes from me being a different person in that environment and creating a personality that is not me and embodying someone else and having their thoughts and their personality and their feelings. It becomes a separate thing from who I am. And I think that's why I still have such a visceral response to the acting is it's giving myself an identity that has nothing to do with me. It's not even my identity. It's the identity of whatever character that I'm portraying. Again, I know that this is all over the place and I apologize. Another thing that ties into the whole, do I miss the performance? Do I miss the feelings that I had when I was in my youth? Do I miss the band itself, or do I miss the idea of the band that lives in my own head? Nostalgia is a toxic impulse. This is 100% correct to me. We cannot dwell on, the past. The past is not as rose-tinted as we like to believe it was. There were problems then. I admit there were more problems in the past for me than there are in the present. And the present is a much more enjoyable, and I want to exist here. I want to be mindful of where I am now and not focus on the past for the good or the bad. However, I recently read a book that was all the rage 20 years ago. And I just now got around to reading it last week. And it was weird because it, without meaning to, very much tied into the thoughts that I had been having regarding like youth and nostalgia and do I miss this or do I miss the idea of this? And in that book, it was very much about somebody like myself. The people in that book I could have seen, when I was reading it, the characters from the page were in my mind and I could line somebody up with pretty much everyone except for a couple characters where I was like, okay, I know this person. This person was this person was that. And it all made sense. And then the end of the book throws this huge curveball and talks about sexual abuse, which I have talked about on here before. And I didn't understand why it was in the book. I don't think it really served any purpose other than a wow factor. And it was weird. And I wasn't as upset about reading that as I would have been years ago. So that's how I know that the past has its own issues, and I don't need to think that the past was this rosy, great thing because it never was. My life since the band, though it has had major ups and downs and major roller coasters, has been infinitely better than my teenage years, than my 20s. The time that I've been away from that has been, when I've been married to my wife, when I've had my own experiences apart from that, when I've built this new life and new identity and done all of these things and built memories with my wife and our family. Those are so much more meaningful to me than the experiences with the band. Yes, I miss traveling. I miss performing. I miss all of that, but I don't necessarily miss my youth. It's such a weird thing to think about, because I know I started this by saying, oh, do I miss the band or do I miss my youth? And it's both. I miss my youth, but I also know that my youth was not this great thing. My youth was not a happy time for me. And like I said, the present, who I am now, is an infinitely more beautiful person than I ever was back then. Even though back then I might have seemed more glamorous in a way, that wasn't me. That wasn't who I was. That was the persona that I was as a performer, because being the way that I am, I don't know how to relate to the world around me. I don't know how to make friends or forge like really long lasting relationships. And that was doubly so when I was younger. I just couldn't even address what was going on with me to be an authentic person. And I don't think I was not an authentic person. I can say that 100%. I was not an authentic person when I was in the band. That was me taking the miasma of the scene and the music style and the subculture and being like, this is who you need me to be. And I thought that being who you needed me to be was more important than being myself, because I didn't know how to be myself. I really feel like I've totally gone off track here, but it's okay. As I've said, or as I said last year when I was doing these videos all the time, sometimes I sit down, I have something that I want to say, but talking about it out loud like takes me down all these other paths of discovery, and it becomes something more than what I set out to do. I don't think I've said anything profound here. I've probably repeated myself in this video as with stuff that I've said in previous videos, and that is what it is. But I guess in summation of everything, this is weird. A couple things. Nostalgia, toxic impulse. We can look back to the past and appreciate the good things and how they led us to where we are and who we are now. But to think that those days were without problems is a fool's errand. I was never my authentic self in those instances. So even though I had relationships and felt things with and had emotional connection with bands, they were not, I'm not saying those weren't real. They were real, but I was not real in those times. Like I said, I was what I thought I had to be. So I don't negate those feelings in those relationships, but I know they're not as authentic as the relationships that I have now with my friends. The handful of them that I have. That's my state now is more authentic with my wife than it ever was, in the past. I am who I am now, all, warts and all. I say that knowing that I still don't really know who I am. I don't think I'll ever really know who I am other than what you see, which is this person that just spews forth thoughts and ideas And, you know, there's people that do that and get paid tons of money for it. I wish I could be that person. I would love to, you know, because I come up with things to say that if I were to boil them down to the essence and condense them, I'm sure I would have something to say worth saying every now and then. Life is strange. I'm strange. Life is strange. The world is strange. But it is what it is. I kind of ran my battery down a little bit saying all that in the last 15 minutes. And I don't really know how to end my thoughts. Just, you know, listen to what I've said. If you listen to what I've said, what I've presented in this video, and you may find something that resonates with you. You might find kernels of truth, of your own truth, in what I've said. And that's good. That's beautiful. And if you do, let me know. My favorite thing about making these videos is when somebody talks to me about them and says that it meant something to them, or they got something out of it, or they watched it. You know, even just watching it means the world to who I am. And yeah, I guess I'm just going to end it. I don't need to draw this out any longer than it needs to be. But let's just remember, throughout your life, advance daily, becoming more skillful than yesterday, more skillful than today. This is never ending. I'll see you guys. Bye.